Please be seated. Well, it's a wonderful gospel we heard this morning, but I'm not going to preach on that. I had a sermon already for this gospel, and then Friday happened, and I knew I couldn't preach that sermon. And so, what was I going to preach on? Well, we had a service yesterday morning, a prayer service for those who could attend, and as the service was over and people were leaving, a gentleman came up to me, a member of our church, and he said to me, "How could a good God let this happen? How could a good God let this happen?" And I knew that's what we needed to talk about today. I want to thank the great Episcopal priest and preacher, the Reverend Fleming Rutledge, for her inspiration for this sermon. You see, God works in mysterious ways, and it's not just a sentimental phrase. It reflects a deeper biblical truth. And the prophet Isaiah said it so well. He says this of God: "Thou art truly a God who hidest thyself." Thou art truly a God who hidest thyself. Be honest. Let's be honest. That's a hard verse to us to hear in the events of these past few days. What does that mean? Why in the world would God ever hide? The question is, where is God? That's not just a philosophical question. It gets painfully real in these times of tragedy. When children are killed in schools, when cancer returns, when a family breaks apart, when floods take away homes and lives. We naturally ask, if God is a good God, then why didn't he stop this? Where was he? Now, many Christians have been told not to ask questions like that. We think it might be disrespectful to God to say something like that. But let me tell you, the Bible is full of people griping at God for just that. Listen to the psalmist. Psalm 13, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" Psalm 44, "Why do you hide your face from my affliction?" And the prophet Habakkuk said this, even more directly: "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and will you not hear? Why are you silent when the wicked swallow up the righteous?" These aren't questions of shallow faith, my friends. They are the cries of deep lived faith. A faith that doesn't run away from the darkness, but brings God right into those dark places. The prophet Isaiah's statement, "Truly thou art a God who hidest thyself," that wasn't written during a great spiritual high point in the life of Israel. No, it was written when Israel was in exile in Babylon, and the pagans were all around them. And they had lost everything, their land, their temple, their hope. And yet in the middle of all that, Isaiah says that God is still at work, still the true God. But even though God is working on their salvation, Isaiah admits that God hides himself. There's an old Latin term for that: Deus abscondicus, the hidden God, the hidden God. And that doesn't mean that God is doing hide and seek. It means God's ways are not our ways. His wisdom often confounds us, and sometimes God allows his presence to be veiled. But why? Why? The number one reason is because God is not made in our image. Think about that. God is not a vending machine that we can go up to and punch a button and get what we want. He's not here to validate our plans. God is not tame. C.S. Lewis put it so well when he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. Remember the lion Aslan? He says of Aslan, he's not safe, but he is good. We've got a great hymn in our hymnal that we're going to sing in just a little bit, hymn number 423. And the hymn says this so beautifully in this particular line. It says, immortal, invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible, hid from our eyes. The phrase light inaccessible comes from the story of Moses on Mount Sinai. Remember that story when Moses asked to see the glory of God, and God told him that no one can see him face to face and live. Instead, God covered Moses' eye and walked past him so Moses only saw the trailing edges of God's glory. Why? Because God's holiness is overwhelming, just too bright, but too weighty, too pure, too real for us to bear. There's a distance between us and God that we just can't bridge by our own effort, knowledge, or goodness. God's hiddenness, then, is not a sign that he doesn't love us, but a sign that he is more than we can grasp. Well, then, how do we know God at all? Well, the answer is it's big. If God hides himself, how do we know him? Well, the answer is God reveals himself in his own way and time, but supremely, he reveals himself in Jesus Christ. In the book of Hebrews, it says this, in many and various ways God spoke of old to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days he has spoken to us by a Son. He reflects the glory of God and bears the very stamp of his nature. In other words, Jesus is the unveiling of the hidden God. Yes, God sometimes hides, but he also chooses to reveal himself. And when he reveals himself, it's not in grandeur and thunder or gold. How does God reveal himself? In a manger, on a cross, and in an empty tomb. At the center of our faith is not a God who stays safe in heaven, but one who descends into the world, into our suffering, in fact, even into our hell. When we have a baptism, we recite the Apostles' Creed. And the Apostles' Creed has a line in it, and it says of Jesus, he descended into hell. That's not just poetic, it's theologically profound. It means Jesus experienced the full weight of God's absence. On the cross, he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? In that moment, Jesus experienced that hiddenness of God more fully than anyone else ever had. And he did it for us, so that even in our own darkness, we might not be alone. He went into the silence of death and broke it open on Easter morning. The Bible teaches us a paradox that God is both hidden and revealed, present in absence, silent and yet still speaking. Christianity doesn't offer pat answers as to why terrible things happen, but it offers a presence in the midst of them. It offers us a cross, a risen Savior, and a spirit that groans with us when we do not know how to pray. We may not understand why God is silent sometimes, but we know this: God has not abandoned us. And we know this. How? Because of Jesus. During the Holocaust, Allied troops found a quote that was scratched on the wall in a cellar in Cologne where someone was hiding from the Nazis. He had written this: Believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. Believe in love, even when I do not feel it. Believe in God, even when he's silent. That statement is what mature faith looks like. Not denying the silence of God, but choosing to trust in the darkness. Choosing to believe that there is a light beyond what we can now see. In the same chapter where Isaiah says, "Truly you are a God who hides yourself," he also records these powerful words from God. "There is no other God besides me." Excuse me. "I am a righteous God and a Savior. Turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth." That's our hope. That's our hope, my friends. God may seem hidden at times, but he's also our Savior. Right now, we live in that in-between time, the silence between Good Friday and the celebration of Easter. But Easter has already come, but one day it will come in its fullness. Friends, the question, where is God, is not a betrayal of your faith. It is part of your faith. It is the question of the prophets. It's the question of Jesus himself. God may hide, but God has not left us. For Moses, he is the light in the cleft in the rock. For Elijah, he is the voice in the whirlwind. For the two disciples, he is the one who walks with them on the road to Emmaus. Until then, we cling to what has been revealed, and we trust that the name of God who hides himself is also the God who saves, the God who walks with us through all the wonder and the tragedy of life. Now, I want you to turn in your hymnals to hymn number 423. As we sing this hymn, I want you to pay special attention to the words in this hymn. They offer us a profound glimpse of who God is, that we trust, and that we worship. Won't you please stand as we sing hymn 423.